Welcome to my budget deck channel where I try to make decks as cheap and playable as possible. So if this is something you'd be interested in, then why not subscribe? We are talking about a deck today that uses the Spright engine. Yay, this has still not been hit by the ban list. I don't think it will be hit that much that early on. Konami sometimes hits stuff even if it isn't the best deck anymore, just because of time wise this was the best deck at one point and we haven't dealt with it yet, so maybe they're going to hit this before tier, who knows. But this should be still somewhat fine before Sprint comes out. I doubt they're going to ban some of the extra deck monsters, but we'll see. Usually this is going to be absolutely fine. Let's move on with the card by card. We have double Filo. You can technically go on 3 if you want to cut stuff like Dyna, for example. You could cut stuff like Helmer if you want to. If you want to be playing triple Filo, because Filo can be very strong, but we have to make certain adjustments here because we want to play more level 2s, and you have to cut some stuff to incorporate the whole Spright engine. So I felt like 2 Filo are fine, but you can switch this out if you want to and play like more Filos and less of the other stuff. We have triple Donpa actually, because this is a level 2 card. This is a very good extender. It's a very good card during your opponent's turn. With the Spright Elf being around, you can summon stuff back from the graveyard, trigger this card's effect, and so on and so on and so on. There's lots of combos with Rex that can trigger this as well. Draw you 3 cards during your opponent's turn with your for higher link monster. Very neat card indeed. 2 Recon, mainly because it's level 2, the effect isn't that great, but you have more monsters that you can summon from your hand then, and if you just normal summon this to get your Spright combo started, it's not too bad either. Talk about the Spright cards, 1 blue for budget reasons, but this card searches everything, and you can summon this out of Starter, which you can search with the other cards like Jet, and also you can summon it off a gigantic Spright, so 1 is usually enough for a budget version. We have Spright Jet, very strong card because it searches you Starter, it searches you Smashers, and if you want to be playing it, it can search you Spright Gamma Burst. I sometimes underrate this card, but I feel like in this deck I had to shave some stuff away, and this didn't make the cut. If you want to, you can incorporate it. You can also play a 41 card deck if you feel like you need this to finish games. I usually didn't feel like I needed it, but in theory you could. Spright Red, very interesting card. I like it. It's not like a terrible card at all. It's obviously monster negate, but you have to tribute stuff, and sometimes you don't have the resources to do this, but they're both searchable, same as Carrot. So I usually play them more at 3 because you have more extenders then, but in this specific variant we couldn't go all in on the Spright engine, because this, for me, in a budget variant makes more sense to be a pure-ish for higher deck with a Spright engine, and not the other way around. You could make this turn this into like a Spright deck with a for higher engine, then you would cut loads of cards and basically only play like multiple Rexes, some Donpa, maybe even just 1 and 1 beat and 1 of this, and then you have like a small engine in here with I think 1 Rafale as well, so you have 1 monster negate. You can go into your link monsters then and so on, but you're kind of reliant on getting Rex to your hand and getting the Rex effect off. You can play things like Fossil Dig to enhance the Rex experience if you want to, but yeah, it is what it is. I feel like for a budget reason it makes more sense to make this more of a for higher deck with some added Spright, but if you want to play the most competitive version, it can make more sense to make it a Spright version and then add like a tiny for higher combo in here, although I felt like when I tried it out that you break on the for higher stuff as much as you have use it for things if you don't play things like Fossil Dig. So yeah, didn't really seem overly great. It does some stuff, but also you could just play other cards that aren't the for higher cards and probably get the same result out of it, although the draw 3 can be nice. Other than that, it doesn't matter overly, but Rex by itself is a nice little combo if you pair it with some level 2s as well. We then have Ash Blossom, Infinite Impermanence, Nibiru, and Forbidden Droplet. I usually include like all of them now because you get them for free in the Master Pack bundles, and usually people will have 1 of them from that. Only do it for decks that are like reasonably competitive, and since there's Spright in here and the for hires aren't absolutely terrible either, I felt like this was a deck where I would include this. Some of the decks that are more like fun casual, I wouldn't include that many because it doesn't really matter in the end all that much. But if you played enough Yu-Gi-Oh, you know hand traps equals good, and you want to play as many of them as you can without harming your engine. So that is what it is. You just basically already need them because it's a best of 1, and if you have to go second and your opponent plays a combo deck, then you can't get around drawing into 1 of them, because if you don't, you will have a very hard time dealing with their board unless you play like a pure go second variant, and for a budget variant that doesn't really work because most of the very good go second cards aren't budget. 1 Helmer because it's just another monster effect. You can with this and beat go into Super Quantal, for example, so that's quite nice, and the effect isn't terrible but the attack stats are, so you can cut this but you don't have to. And it's Aqua, who knows what that comes in handy for at one point. So we have triple, well, I want to say triple, but we have technically 4 beat because we have Reinforcement of the Army, a free card, so you don't have to craft this, very, very nice. We can do lots of stuff with this one. It's a searcher, but you obviously have to watch out. It's a level 3, so sometimes you can't go into this. I'll talk about the whole restrictions that come with adding Spright package when we talk about starter and the extra deck. But yeah, very, very strong card. You want to run as many as you can of this one. Seal Strategist can be quite nice. It's level 4, which doesn't really matter because it's the only level 4 that you have. But also it adds your extra deck monsters back to your extra deck, one of your for hire ones if you want to. It can get you a monster to your hand, so you have a discard for the next turn for some of your Infinite Gates, and just adds back some resources from your graveyard to your hand, so the effect isn't terrible. And the attack stats are okay-ish, I guess. We have Dyna, very nice card because it also protects your Spright monsters by battle, because monsters your opponent controls cannot target monsters for hire you control for attacks. So yeah, no, never mind, it doesn't protect your Spright monster. I was saying like it protects from battle, but it doesn't really matter all that much. This isn't like a crazy effect either. It is what it is. But if this card is special summoned, you can banish your cards from your opponent's graveyard up to a number of monsters for how you control of different names. This is why this card can come handy in this format, but you don't really have to play it, although the attack stats are nice most of the time. I would cut it if you don't have it and try it without it. Play like triple Filo, for example, you should be still fine. With Sage for Hire, very, very nice card. Spell Trap Negate, and technically gains you some life points. It is what it is. It's not a bad card at all. We have Gadarla in here because there's lots of decks around that can create unaffected monsters, and with the Blackwing structure deck and some additions to it, you can create a Blackwing Armor Master that, or the good one, that cannot be affected and cannot be destroyed with battle, so you have to have some kind of card that deals with it at the moment. And in general, a Kaiju isn't too bad either against most decks, and you can excavate it with a Rafale at one point possibly, so it's not too bad either. Love Rafale, it's a monster negate. I have no idea how to say his name, but that is what it is. Attack stats are great, and monster negate, and you can add one other card from your deck to your hand. Sadly, it doesn't count itself for the excavate, so you have to have somewhat of a board for this, but it's not bad either because you don't even just take for hire cards, you can take any card you excavate, which can help you dig for solutions for your opponent's board, or just disruption cards if you already have an established board. We talked about Nibiru already. Monster Reborn can be nice, although it's a double-edged sword against tier limits at the moment, because they have obviously the Shizu cards that mill, but they also have the Shizu cards that get rid of stuff in your graveyard and shuffle it back to the deck. And since with this effect you have to target the monster before you summon it, they can just get rid of that one. Reinforcement, very, very nice, and it's also for free. These two cards are free, so I would include them anyway. It's a good extender. We have Forbidden Chalice here, because that's technically your hand trap slot, but Forbidden Chalice has some positive effects because you can use it during your turn. Even if you've already established your board impermanence, you can from your hand, because obviously you have to control no cards to use it. So it is like that a little bit. Sometimes this can be a bit helpful, but obviously you can also play things like Maxi and Ash Blossom in its place. We have one for hire Mayhem, because you can just get stuff back from your graveyard, extend your plays a little bit. It's searchable, so one is fine. It can break your hand because it's a hard once per turn, so I thought cutting this down to one would make sense. We have this one. We have Rookie for Hire, a card you have to watch out with for two reasons. First of all, the tribute is for cost, so if you get Ash Blossomed, you lose your board completely, and it has like a bit of a soft lock in here. You cannot declare attacks the turn you activate this card except with monsters for hire. Very difficult, very annoying sometimes, because sometimes you forget about this, or sometimes this actually stops you from finishing the game because you can't go into your extra deck shenanigans. Just keep that one in mind. It's not too bad, but can be problematic. Now we have Spright Starter, the first card of Spright that locks you into special summoning monsters except level, rank, or link 2 monsters. So it's only for the rest of the turn, so you can use this quite at the end of your plays, or if you use it at the start of your plays, you just don't go into your fire stuff. Then your Spright stuff is good enough to buy your turn from time to time. And you also have to watch out during your opponent's turn, because Rex can summon stuff during your opponent's turn by banishing itself from the graveyard, because it's a quick effect. So watch out with the interactions between those two. We have Spright Smashers, very, very nice card to get rid of stuff that isn't unaffected, because it doesn't target and it doesn't destroy. Infinite Impermanence, nice card. We have Herald of Pure Light to recycle some of your extra deck monsters, because you only run one-offs, because this is a budget version. We have number 65 Djinn Buster, just for the fact if you have the combo of blue into Jet, then you have 2 level 2 dark monsters on board, so you can be using this. Ronin Raccoon, because you run more of these now, so you technically have it easier to get into 2 beasts. We have Cat Shark, can be quite nice to finish off some games. Crumble Logos to deal with floodgates most of the time, or any other shenanigans that your opponent has that can be negated on board. We have Mannequin Cat, not a bad card, but you could play basically anything else instead if you want to. What comes to mind, Malefy of the Forest is a card you can play in here. Run one of the Malefy cards like Catty, I think it is, plus the Penny, so you can go into stuff like Herald of the Arclight. Technically that is possible. It is a somewhat decent engine to deal with some tier limit stuff. If you want to take this to a more competitive level, this could be a combo that you might want to be running in the extra deck. We have this one as Spell Trap Negate, and the defense stats for rank 3 monster aren't terrible. G-Nature Transverser, because this is a good budget link too. We have Spright Elf. Obviously you can play like stuff like IP Masquerena, very nice instead, not instead of Elf, but instead of like Geonator, because it's a very strong link to you, and this is just like a good link to you from time to time. So Elf, very important. This card doesn't lock you at all, which is hilarious, but it cannot be used as a link material to turn. It is Link Summit, so keep that one in mind. You can use it to go into your other for hire stuff. For example, we have the new for hire monster. It's Donner, Dagger for hire, very nice. Has two effects that you can only use one of them per turn, so it's a bit annoying, but you can pop stuff and you can also recycle some stuff from your graveyard or your hand, so that's neat. We have Decode Talker as a budget card, Code Talker to get over a higher attack point monsters. We have Folgo to give you that neat draw 3. You usually want to do this combo before you start your Spright stuff, because with this one you can summon Donpa, and then you can still go into some Spright plays afterwards, and you can get Donpa back then during your opponent's turn, or during your turn still with Spright Elf, because Elf doesn't summon just to its zones, so we should be fine with this one as well. And when Rasterly gets budget access Code Talker, if you have access Code Talker, just play that. Other cards to consider, obviously Appaloosa is a nice card. 1 for 1 you could be playing to start off with like some Filo stuff if you have a hand full of for hires, but usually makes more sense in a pure version. Called by the Grave, very important. Right now Evenly Matched is a good card. You can technically play stuff like there could be only one, but wouldn't recommend it. Linkaribo is nice for the combo with Donner, but since you only run 2 of the Filo, didn't feel like it was necessary anymore. Let's jump to the rating section. Alright, quick rating for this deck. In terms of power level, the strength of this deck, I would say it is a very weak 4 out of 5, just because of the fact that you do have more plays than with the pure for hire variant. You do have more explosive plays than the pure for hire variant, and you have a bit more consistency. It's still not even like remotely as good as like pure Spright or like some actual competent Spright builds that you would see on the ladder, but it does have something that pure for hire doesn't, and it does have something that pure Spright doesn't. So combining those two do make the deck a little bit better, but they're not making the deck like crazy viable or crazy competitive. It's just like a neat little playable thing if you want to be playing for hires and you want to be playing them a tiny bit better than they might be by themselves. When it comes to consistency, I still would say like a 3 out of 5. The fact that you add some of the Spright things doesn't only help you with consistency, but also breaks you from time to time, because sometimes you will have like one of the Spright cards in hand but no level 2 monster on board. Obviously you can always use your for hire combo to go into Donpa in the end, because you can summon it out of the deck, but if that combo gets disrupted, then you're stuck with Spright cards in your hand that do absolutely nothing, and you're a bit screwed like that. So consistency wise, you still have the for hire issues, and you have some additional issues with the Spright packet. So I would say 3 out of 5, like possibly more on the lower side of a 3, but in the end it is what it is. In terms of budget value, I would say a high 3 out of 5. The thing is that it's not a 4 because it is quite an expensive deck. I think it's like 7 ultra rares that you really need, that you really need to play this deck. It's not like, oh yeah, some of them you could cut if you want to. You do need all of these at least at one. Bit annoying, but it is what it is. And technically at least you get 2 playable decks out of this. If you craft this, you will have a good Spright core, you will be able to play lots of different Spright variants with it, and you do have a very playable for hire core. You don't like anything really that much to play like a purish version of for hires either, so you have that going for itself, but the deck in general is quite expensive for what it is, and some other Spright variants are a bit cheaper than this and can very easily compete with the power level of this variant, or even exceed that. So I would say in terms of budget value, you like a good-ish 3 out of 5, but in the end just a 3 out of 5. Let's move on to the replay. And starting with the replay, it's from the World Championship Qualifier. Ooh, that sounds so mighty, but it's basically just another Duel Links dual level event. So in the end, we will be going up against good decks that try to climb up the ladder, qualify themselves for the World Championship. even though none of the people that are still on this level will, we know how it is. But our hand looks somewhat decent here. There's a bit of an issue when it comes to it, because obviously if Rookie for Hire doesn't go through, then we are a bit screwed here. We have Forbidden Chalice if they put anything on board that matters, and with Telements on the horizon, this can always be helpful. Starting our plays with going for the Strategist, and if this one got negated, I would have been screwed-ish, because technically I still have Rookie for Hire, and then I could have, if they had Infinite Impermanence or Veiler, I could have distributed it and then continued onwards. Ash Blossom is where this whole scenario gets really annoying in the end. They have a Haveness, of course they do, because they always have it. They play Branded Telements, a deck that is playable, but I don't think is as good as the other Telement builds. It is what it is. Probably has its strength. They obviously hit him early, and with Merly they go into Rebellion, because I think they also hit an Albaz. Very interesting, and they want to do the whole Branded combo rather than going through the Telements combo. Bit weird, but maybe they have a card in hand that lets them do the Telement stuff during their turn, and they thought maybe rather go into this now, so we have the Mirror Jade live. Which is not like a bad idea, but I do have Forbidden Chalice, so we can be doing some of the combos here, can be doing the Rookie, can be doing the Rex, and so on. So that's this not too bad here. Now I have to be a bit creative. Obviously we can get Mayhem Fur Hire, so we have lots of different plays. I add the Helmer back already. Technically could have waited a little bit with the effect of the Strategist for later on, because there will be other scenarios where we technically could have gotten it off, but at this point having another card in hand isn't too bad. Using the effect of this one to get Helmer back and to get Strategist back. Now I recycle the cards because I felt like I didn't need another Rookie for Hire, and possibly draw into some extender cards, some other for hire cards that I could summon. I've got a Kaiju, which isn't too bad in theory. Could have just Kaiju'd Rebellion here and then popped the Kaiju or something, because they have protection in the graveyard. They milled Branded Opening, so that protects their fusion monsters, so it can be annoying. Could have used the Kaiju here. Not sure if that would have been the right play though. Getting Rex back, going into Folgo, Justice for Hire, very nice cards, summoning Donpa from the deck. And now I use the Rex effect to get this card back, and this might seem a bit like a misplay here, but trust me, I think this is the correct line here, because I can get Donner back, and with this I can attempt to pop it. Obviously I'm not attempting to pop the Haveness, because then they can just go into other shenanigans. I did not want them to do that, so I at least got out the Branded Opening here in the graveyard. So not much more I could have done. Obviously could have Kaiju'd and then popped the Kaiju, but I kind of like to have the Kaiju for a later stage, because just one Rebellion on board isn't actually that much of an issue anyway. And now with these two we can go into Gigantic Spright. Exactly, this helps you because you have a Link 2 here and a level 2, so you can easily go into the Gigantic Spright combo. We can then get Spright Blue out. Spright Blue does what? Obviously search Jet. Jet then goes into Spright Starter, and from that point onwards I decided to go into Spright Elf and do some other kind of combos, because I wanted to get the For Hire package live, but obviously also could have gotten into the Monster Negate with Spright Jet and the Djinn Buster, so that would have been another thing that you could have been doing. Could go into Spright Elf, then summon Blue back, and then go into the Djinn, but I decided to have Donpa live, would be still nice. Technically with Spright Starter I could also summon another Spright Jet, but I wanted to have a Spell Trap Negate online as well, because with Elf now during the opponent's turn we can summon Spright Blue back, so that helps us. But the problem with Donpa is we do not at the moment have any For Hire monster live in our graveyard that does stuff that we could summon. Well, technically we do have Donner actually, so just completely cut that out. I got ahead of myself here a little bit. So we have one Spell Trap Negate, we have one possible pop because we can summon Donner back with Spright Elf, so that's very important. Then we can technically draw 3 because we popped something. So not terrible board state, but also not like the best possible one. It is doable in the end. They have Sheeran in hand, possibly drew into this, possibly had it already. So yeah, maybe I was right with they wanted to do the Telement plays during their turn. They mill some Telement stuff, obviously, because they always do, and hit some other shenanigans that helps them. I thought, let's fire off the pop here to get the draw in, because if they get through with all of this, then my Folgo might be in a bit of a danger. So I thought maybe get the draw 3 in now, and hopefully draw into stuff like Nibiru maybe, Ash Blossom maybe, who knows. But I made a tiny mistake here, and you'll see what that is, because they obviously get the fusion through. They have Kid Claws, and we don't have a Monster Negate. So I try to pop the Rebellion now, because popping Kid Claws does nothing, and popping Sheeran does even less for what we try to do now. So getting rid of this, possibly getting the draw in. Could have obviously waited with the effect for something else that they put up, but most of the Telement fusions replace themselves instantly if you pop them, so that's very annoying. So I felt like this was a bit of the better play here. Kind of annoying because they wanted to go for mask change too. Good for us because they discard things and they lose out on resources, and we can negate it. Bit bad by me here because I think I tribute this one, which I shouldn't have, because now I lose the other for hire that I have on board to draw 3, and I will only draw 1. I probably should have just gotten rid of Spright Jet, and that would have been a lot better here. Just, you know, the deck isn't really all that easy. I mean, this is something you should just know. Folgo only draws you 3 if you have 2 for hires on board, and keep that in mind with this one. So I forgot about that at the second. So I thought, yeah, I can distribute this, so what else do I need it for? I can just summon it back the next turn. It is not the case, so make sure you have the 3 for hire monsters on board if you actually want to be drawing 3 cards. It didn't really matter that much in the end, but obviously 2 extra cards are very, very big in Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't think I have to explain to that one, because now they can get Aluba back, and good that I got this out, because this card's effect will be negated now. Drew into 1 Donpa, could have obviously been 2 more cards in hand. Now they use the Kid Killer's effect, we don't have any monster negate, because I decided not to go into it in the end. A bit annoying, but it is what it is. They go into Rule Colossus, and with this one they end the turn, but they battle over some of our things. We'll lose some resources that are somewhat valuable, but we can be fairly okay with 3 level 2 monsters in our on our field, and with some other shenanigans in our hand. The only thing is that I think I cannot just get rid of Rule Colossus, because the Kaiju still counts as being sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect or by card effect. So yeah, I think I have to play around this. I wasn't 100% sure, but I thought this is how it worked. Correct me if I'm wrong with this one, but I think just Kaijuing Rule Colossus doesn't actually do all that much. Drawn to beat, very, very good draw here. I used this effect first because I felt like, oh, if I can get the Rule Colossus effect out now, then that would be nice, but I forgot the Rule Colossus doesn't only have to send itself, but can send any Telements card from your hand or field to the graveyard. So this was already a bit of a dangerous play, because technically they could have just negated the effect of that one, because it summons, if I'm not mistaken, and then send stuff like Merly and then go into more fusion summons. This was very, very dangerous to do. Probably should have just tried to do something else with the extra deck things, or with the Kaiju, or with whatever, but like this I could pop the Rule Colossus if they let it go through, and then I can technically Kaiju it or get rid of it in any other scenario. So I thought, let's go for it. Then I had other options, but I don't feel like they were as good. It is what it is in the end. Might have been a bit of a risky play, but they didn't feel like they wanted to negate this. They can just get this back, and there's the Kaiju, and now we can be comboing off, because we do not have to fear many disruption from them. Obviously, if they have another Havness in hand, that could be problematic. I sent the Folgo back, because with Folgo now I can summon stuff from my deck. Go into Filo. Filo still have Rex. Filo summons back stuff from the graveyard. We have the Strategist now, getting Rookie for Hire. With Rookie for Hire, we can go into another beat here, because I don't think I've triggered Beat's effect at this point. Or even if I have, I just needed it for the link to anyway, because now I can pop the Kaiju, because otherwise I can't get over it, but also it nets me a draw. And here I make the same mistake again, kind of, because this card you just have to tribute basically 1 monster, and well, no, you have to target 1 monster for higher you control, so have to do that anyway. So there was no way to actually get the draw 3, unless of course I wait to the battle step and then just attack over them here. So again, technically, I don't know, this is not a mandatory effect, so I could have waited with this till the battle phase and just attacked over it, then drew 3 cards, but I kind of wanted the extra card to see if I could push for game here, if I got any other good card that does something possibly, but I didn't really have that many cards in deck that would actually help me here. So possibly was a bit unnecessary at this point. Should have just gone to the battle phase and then draw a few more cards. You can already see resource management quite important with this deck, and I messed up quite a lot, but you can still see this deck does lots of different things. It has some power plays here. We sadly don't have all that much going for us anymore, because we don't have the access to the second Spright Elf. Usually you want to be going to this one as well, but we don't have that in our extra deck, because I sent Folgo back with the Herald. I could have sent anything else back, but yeah, that is the play that I went for. We still have 1 Spell Trap negate. We can technically, I think we still have a Rex life in our graveyard, so we can still special summon something from our graveyard. Not that really matters, because like we can't trigger any of those effects with it, because they don't have one of these. And if we special summon any of those ones, we don't have a different way of getting another for hire on board. Technically, I think I could have special summoned one of the other ones with Rex now and then gone into Wiz. The only problem with this one is that Wiz, well, doesn't really work if you don't have a Fur Hire card in hand. You could have played this whole turn a little bit different, possibly could have used the other effect of Donner and summoned more monsters from the graveyard instead of popping it, and so on and so on and so on, but I felt like this was my only way of getting over the Kaiju that I gave my opponent for attack stat wise. There might have been other options as well. We don't know if I got the draw 3 in, would have possibly been a little bit better as well. They have the home early effect, and for once they whiff. I was gonna say, when is that gonna happen? They do here, and that lets them, well, doesn't leave them much room for anything else, because now I can get the Rex combo in because they were about to end the turn, and there was nothing they could have done to come back from that one. Bit unlucky on their part that they whiffed here, but lucky from them that they didn't whiff at anything else before. It is what it is. I think branded Tearlament isn't the craziest Tearlament version anyway, but it's certainly a fair deck, and you could see what for higher Spright can do, but you also saw what it can't do and what it struggles with from time to time. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, I hope you have a nice day.